Is anyone else struggling with their political compass lately? Because I sure am. I prefer to think of myself as a classical liberal. Someone who can approach a new issue without being shackled by ideology. But I guess if pressed, I'd say I lean more to the right. I value liberty, self-responsibility, and the free market as defining principles. I think there should be a safety net, but it shouldn't be too generous. But in reality, we all face a straight choice between freedom and equality. It's one or the other. You literally can't have both. A free society will never be equal. So an equal society, by definition, cannot be free. And for me, it's freedom all the way. But I feel politically homeless right now. And I'm assuming a lot of people are in the same boat. I cannot abide Boris Johnson's Conservative government, and I had little time for Theresa May or David Cameron either. I'm at least relieved that Johnson defeated Jeremy Corbyn and his cabinet of lunatics, because that would have been so much worse. But the current Tory administration is still a rudderless shambles, and they highlight the biggest problem in contemporary UK politics. That both main political parties have abandoned their core electorate so they can chase the sort of identitarian metropolitan idiots who populate The Guardian and the BBC. The Tories have no interest in representing free market conservatives, and Labour can't disguise the utter contempt they have for the working classes. As it stands, the Tories are probably slightly less abject than Labour. But that's hardly a recommendation for a party that lacks the moral courage to stand up for its principles. Keir Starmer's a lot better than Corbyn, but he's been left with the task of salvaging the ruin left by the hard left. An almost intractable problem. And he's a bit of a useless identitarian plonk, so I don't hold out a lot of hope. Of course, the situation in America is ever more volatile, with both camps drifting apart while engaging in a bitter and rancid feud. Like many Europeans, I find American politics difficult to relate to. There are a lot of hot-button issues in the US that just aren't contentious topics over here at all. The likes of abortion, gun control, healthcare, the role of religion in school, politics and society, and, to a large extent, racism. They just aren't issues over here, so I can't relate to the fervour on those areas at all. And they're arguably the most divisive topics in America. Now, that's not to dismiss US concerns. I understand the arguments from both sides on those issues. I just can't relate to the intensity with which they're expressed. And politically, I'd struggle to find a home in America too. I guess on policies, I'm closer to the Democrats on some issues. But they're just such unbearable people. I can't really imagine supporting them. I'm with the Republicans on much of their free market position, but a lot of the US right seems obsessed with God and guns. And again, I'm not belittling those positions, but it's just not me. I come from a secular state, with no guns. So while I love America's enthusiasm and culture, it's not my culture. I have to say though, if I had to pick Americans to hang out with, I'd go right over left without hesitation. A night out with Ben Shapiro, Michael Knowles, Andrew Klavan, Matt Walsh, Candace Owens, Dave Morrison and Donald Trump would, I'm sure, be a fun night to remember. But a night out with Cenk Uygur, Anna Kasparian, AOC, Ilhan Omar, Kamala Harris, Linda Sarsour and Joe Biden, Jesus, that's my idea of hell on a plate. But despite our differences, there are many things that unite the British and American right. We both value liberty and free speech. We both support the capitalist free market. We both prefer a small, unobtrusive government, and we both love our nations. And I'd like to think we're fond of each other's nations too. We're also both united in opposition to the woke left, who are virtually indistinguishable on both sides of the pond, in their alarmist views on race, climate and gender, and their belief that their opponents are vile. And this is the real dividing line between left and right, because the right largely believe that their opponents are mistaken, and often foolish. But the left tend to believe that their opponents are just evil. And this warps their worldview and activism out of all touch with reality. But there are two other issues that puzzle me. The first is that, in America, the left-wing party are the Blues, and the right-wingers are the Reds. But everyone knows it's the lefties who are the Reds. And it must have been especially confusing in the 50s when the American Reds were preoccupied with the Red Scare of communism. It's just wrong. Change it. The American right's virulent opposition to state control also seems rather odd, when their most cherished institution, the American Army, is a state-run enterprise. I'm pretty sure the state builds their roads and runs their police forces too. So there are clearly times when the state's a good thing. And history bears this out. It was large-scale cooperation that was behind the foundation of human civilization. It was what allowed the Egyptians to divert the waters of the Nile, to irrigate their land, and to build the pyramids. And similar projects enabled the foundations of civilization in China and the Indus Valley. Victorian England has a salient lesson to teach us here too. The early Victorians advocated for the free market and personal responsibility. They believed in a hands-off approach by the state, a policy they called laissez-faire, leave alone. But as industrialisation continued, an awareness grew that the state needed to step in. That when it came to sanitation, sewage, healthcare, education, representation, and public works, the governments of the day should do more. So the state gradually broadened its remit and took on more responsibilities. The fruits of that are seen today, and the measures that were taken indisputably led to dramatic improvements in people's lives. So that evidence shapes my view of politics. When it comes to infrastructure, the state should step in. But when it comes to the inner workings of the human mind and conscience, it needs to back off. The state can help build a better world for us to inhabit. But to flourish, we must inhabit it freely. To be able to live, speak and think with as much liberty as possible. The state should encourage diversity of opinion, as much as it currently supports every kind of diversity except opinion. And this is where the state and current politics are getting it all wrong. Dear politicians, build some schools and hospitals, fix the potholes, and shut up and stay out of our lives. That's your remit. And overstepping those bounds results in the kind of friction that's currently leading to so much societal discord, where there is absolutely no need. If you want to support this channel, please like and subscribe. And if you're interested in these topics, I've written 2 books which go into them in extensive detail. They're called The Tyranny of the Left, and they're available on the links below. Please do pick them up and let me know what you think. Thank you.